Karoline Leavitt. The left pretends to be a champion of women until they find one who is a conservative. Once that happens, they love nothing more than tearing down women with the most petty and vacuous of insults.
Following her most recent comments regarding wokeness, Whoopi Goldberg is once again in the center of controversy. However, she encountered someone who wasn't scared to question her story this time.
Maybe have been open to her.
No, I understand. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
And the abuse continued.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
Attacking a woman for her looks or age isn't very progressive.
Whoopi's remarks were directly criticized by Karoline Leavitt, a rising conservative voice who revealed the inconsistencies and hypocrisy of the viewpoint's interpretation of wokeness.
And I would just say a strong message who are out there pretending to be outraged about the long list of crap that this administration is cutting, federal waste and funding, like $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, $20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq, $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. I could go on, and I'm happy to provide this list to every single one of you.
In a debate that swiftly became more than a dispute, Leavitt did more than only defend her stance. By flipping the roles of Whoopi and The View, she had them face the shortcomings of their own argument.
I vow to provide the truth from this podium. We ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that you're reporting.
A regular segment swiftly turned into one of the most contentious discussions in recent television history. What happened, why it matters, and how this discussion symbolizes a widening cultural division are all covered in today's article.
Goldberg chimed in too, suggesting Leavitt only got her job because of wokeness.
Yeah. I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
In a discussion about the role of wokeness in contemporary politics, Goldberg vehemently defended the idea, asserting that wokeness was the cause of societal advancement. According to Whoopi, the movement for diversity, equity, and inclusion had brought about positive change, and those who opposed it were merely opposing necessary social evolution. She dismissed conservative criticisms of wokeness as fear-mongering, arguing that those who opposed the ideology were afraid of change and uncomfortable with progress.
It's very easy to speak truth from this podium when you have a president who is implementing policies that are wildly popular with the American people, and that's exactly what this administration is doing. It's correcting the lies and the wrongs of the past 4 years, many of the lies that have been told to your faces in this very briefing room. I will not do that.
Nevertheless, Karoline Leavitt quickly intervened and resisted. Leavitt did not merely disagree. Instead, he dissected Whoopi's argument, highlighting the inconsistencies in the way wokeness was portrayed and the selective use of the so-called inclusive values.
I'm so sick and tired of the media pointing the finger at Donald Trump and saying that he is sowing division in this country. He is not. The media is for pushing hoaxes like the one that you all pushed today, and the Democrat Party is for pushing lies about him. But the good news is Americans don't buy it. The sentiment that President Trump is a democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie, and yes, you will take political.
She maintained that wokeness had exacerbated divisions rather than brought people together by enforcing ideological conformity and punished those who dared to challenge his beliefs. Examples of those who have been retaliated against for opposing wokeness were given by Leavitt. These people include those in the media, academia, and corporate America who have lost opportunities because their opinions didn't fit the dominant woke narrative. She also criticized Whoopi and the other members of the Perspectives panel for their duplicity in stifling conservative viewpoints, while claiming to support free speech. Leavitt raised concerns about whether the show genuinely fostered diversity of thought, or just diversity that aligned with their ideological framework, by pointing to the many instances in which conservative women had been ignored, interrupted, or outright insulted. She persisted, emphasizing that wokeness had not been utilized to promote true diversity, but rather to defend censorship and exclusion.
The 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office. Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country.
Visibly irritated, Whoopi tried to justify her position by claiming that wokeness was about equality of opportunity and inclusivity. She asserted that conservatives such as Leavitt were misrepresenting wokeness, presenting it as oppressive, when, in fact, it was about redressing historical wrongs and advancing justice. Leavitt, however, wasn't going to leave that alone. She pressed harder, asking Whoopi how criticizing conservative women for their views was consistent with the inclusiveness concept. If being woke really meant accepting different viewpoints, then why were conservative women so frequently the objects of derision and contempt? Why did progressive women get hailed as role models while their credentials were questioned? Leavitt emphasized the unjust standard that was produced by the selective use of wokeness, which muted some voices while elevating others. At this time, the set was clearly tense. Trying to keep the conversation under control, Whoopi tried to change the subject from Leavitt's remarks, but it was too late. The audience could see that the views argument was broken and the damage was already done. Leavitt had stated her point quite clearly, and Whoopi's efforts to change the storyline only served to highlight how flawed her argument was. The incident swiftly gained widespread attention on social media, with videos becoming viral. Many viewers, regardless of their political inclinations, concurred that Whoopi's defense of wokeness had been successfully undermined. It was acknowledged that Leavitt had raised legitimate concerns about the contradictions in the views narrative, even by people who did not necessarily share her conservative views. The View was criticized for having long served as a forum for promoting biased viewpoints and silencing opposing viewpoints. This most recent conversation simply served to confirm that impression. Rather than encouraging a sincere conversation, Whoopi and her co-hosts had tried to brush off Leavitt's worries without adequately addressing them, demonstrating their inability to have a meaningful discussion. Many people demanded that The View reconsider how it interacts with guests who have different viewpoints, and the criticism was immediate. But there was more to this than a single argument on TV. A wider cultural change was at issue. Originally perceived as a movement for constructive change, wokeness has evolved into something far more divisive. Instead of fostering meaningful dialogue, it had fostered an atmosphere in which people were hesitant to voice their opinions for fear of being branded as backward or bigoted, and disagreement was greeted with animosity. The conversation between Leavitt and Whoopi brought to light the growing annoyance of many Americans who believe that the concept of progress has been perverted into a call for ideological conformity. The criticism of the viewpoint was not limited to Whoopi's remarks. Rather, it reflected a broader national discussion concerning free speech, inclusivity, and the true meaning of diversity support. Many people think that rather than promoting inflexible ideological stances, media organizations should encourage candid conversations. Karoline Leavitt's appearance on The View ultimately revealed more than simply the shortcomings in Whoopi Goldberg's defense of wokeness. A broader discussion on the condition of American political discourse was triggered by it. Are we stifling those who dare to think differently, or are we actually promoting candid conversations? This is not the end of the debate. The battle for ideological balance in the media is obviously only getting started, as more voices continue to question the prevailing narratives. How do you feel? Are the discrepancies in the viewpoint's attitude on wokeness successfully shown by Leavitt, or do you think Whoopi Goldberg has a point? Tell us in the comments whether you think Whoopi Goldberg was right, and don't forget to like and subscribe.